kidney tumors are very important in diagnosing abdominal lumps. You have to keep this tumors from kidney when you are examining lump in the abdomen and thinking about diagnosis. So you all know what are the features of the kidney swelling. You already been taught in your clinical findings, examination, how a kidney lump looks like. So don't forget its anatomical location, shape, movement with respiration, falling forwards, mobility, and all these things. And remember that kidney is a retroperitoneal organ. So neoplasms of the kidney, as I said, are very important. You have to remember that most of the kidney lumps are malignant cancers only. Cancer can occur from the kidney tissue itself or the renal pelvis, which is a part of the kidney. That's also there. So soft tissue of the kidneys, epithelial lining of the kidneys. So malignancy can occur from all these things. We have to remember that. But important thing is a renal cell carcinoma, which is a clear cell carcinoma. And kidney tumors also occur in childhood. That's also a very important tumor of the childhood, which is Wilms tumor. So we try to do certain other things. Remember that benign tumors are very rare in kidneys. Well, they are only chance findings on ultrasound. Adenoma, angioma, and angiomyolipoma. Angiomyolipoma is important because it causes severe symptoms like retroperitoneal hematoma and hematuria. Malignant tumors are more common, Wilms tumor and transitional carcinoma, squamous cell carcinoma of the renal pelvis, and hypernephroma. As I said, benign neoplasms are rarities. They are diagnosed only chance finding. And any solid mass in the kidney, you should think only in terms of malignancy of the kidney till proved otherwise. Adenomas are mostly discovered at postmortem examination or incidentally during the ultrasound image. They're usually asymptomatic and benign. Angioma is one of the vascular malformation of the kidney, which can be a cause of hematuria. So it's often seen in young adults. It may cause profuse hematuria. The source of bleeding is difficult to diagnose, but angiography can give an idea as to the source of the bleeding so that they can manage also by embolization. So remember that benign tumors are rare and only in completing the topic. One benign tumor which is important is angiomyolipoma. As the name itself suggests, there are angiomatous elements, myogenic elements, and lipomatous elements in the histology. It's a benign mesenchymal tumor. Usually it occurs singly, but it is associated with a condition called tuberous sclerosis, congenital neurological malformation, wherein there can be bilateral angiomyolipoma and multiple angiomyolipoma. How it are diagnosed? Because of the high content of the fat, they give a specific appearance in the CT. Usually, these do not metastasize and malignant elements are less. Very rarely, they can metastasize, but always these are benign only. Metastasis occurs only in one peculiar variety called malignant epithelioid variety of the tumor. Why this tumor is important? As I said, this causes severe hemorrhagic complications because there are angiomatous elements and may present as erythroperitoneal hematoma or a severe hematuria. You will be called upon to treat a case of severe hematuria, investigate, to find angiomyolipoma. So how to do this? Here you see, this is a computerized tomogram, not a solid high fat content, that's why it doesn't look a very solid tumor. It's typically high fat content, you diagnose angiomyolipoma. How to treat these patients with angiomyolipoma? Because remember that potentially there can be bilateral and multiple. So nephrectomy should not be done just like that if there is a tumor. Patients with isolated lesions less than 4 centimeters should be followed with periodic ultrasounds or computerized tomogram. Asymptomatic or mildly symptomatic lesions more than 4 centimeters should be followed up with semi-annual ultrasound. Patients with lesions of more than 4 centimeters with moderate or severe symptoms like bleeding or pain should undergo renal sparing surgery or renal arterial embolization. So So it should be only kidney sparing operations, not nephrectomy. So the treatment varies from case to case depending on whether single, multiple, unilateral or bilateral, ranging from minimally invasive procedure like selective embolization of the renal artery or the bleeding point to the invasive wedge dissection. If there is a single tumor, can do a wedge dissection, partial nephrectomy, or very severe cases with bleeding uncontrolled, you may have to do a nephrectomy. So that is angiomyolipoma. To recapitulate, angiomyolipoma is a benign tumor of the kidney, very rarely containing malignant elements in about 25% of the cases, and may present with severe retroperitoneal hematoma due to bleeding or hematuria. They are diagnosed on CT scan because of their high fat content. Mostly the treatment is conservative with follow-up by ultrasound or CT. There is bleeding. You have to assess the severity of the disease, do an angiogram. If selectively you can embolize it, you can embolize it. Otherwise, if there is localized mass, single mass, you can do surgery for that. Nephrectomy is not the answer unless bleeding is very severe, not able to control. Remember that this can be bilateral and multiple. The other neoplasm of the kidney seen in children is very important. It's called Wilms tumor. It is also called nephroblastoma. This develops from the embryonic tissue elements in the kidney. So probably the origin could be from the intrauterine life. Don't know. The manifestation is postnatal, but the changes could be occurring in utero also. It's a mixed tumor containing epithelial and connective tissue elements. And as I said, they develop from embryonic nephrogenic tissue. They present in early childhood during first 4 years of life. Usually tumor occurs in one of the poles, upper pole or lower pole. But about 5.7% of these people may present with bilateral disease, either synchronously or metachronously. What is synchronous? Tumors can be found at the same time in both the kidneys. Metachronous, if you treat one kidney by nephrectomy, tumor can appear after some time in the other kidney. That is called metachronous presentation. So bilateral tumors can present synchronously or metachronously. This is how a Wilms tumor looks like. The cut surface, tumor is grayish or pinkish white, big, belong to one pole, and this is normal kidney. It's a rapidly growing tumor. If a rapidly growing tumor is there, there can be central necrosis also and friable consistency. So it is a rapidly growing abdominal mass, presents in children. Childhood tumors are neuroblastoma, nephroblastoma. These things are very common and very with bad prognosis also. The mass may become enormous compared to a tiny patient, a small child, but a very big tumor. And presentation can be due to with pyrexia, failure to thrive, severe abdominal mass, hematuria. Hematuria indicates tumor extension into the renal pelvis and it has got a worse prognosis. So when there is a child who presents to you with an abdominal lump in the renal area, you have to do an imaging to find out what the lesion is. Ultrasound is the first investigation in the area of the masses, which shows a solid mass. Then urography or computerized tomogram with contrast reveals a solid space-occupying lesion and also shows the vascularity of the tumor. MRI may demonstrate the displacement of the renal vein and vena cava and may aid in the diagnosis of thrombus of the renal vein or vena cava. So all these tumors of the kidney have a tendency to grow into the renal vein and into the vena cava. Adult tumors also grow like that. So you'll have to do this to know the extension. These tumors metastasize early, mainly by bloodstream to the lungs. Liver, bone, and brain metastases are rare. Lymphatic spread is uncommon. So mainly this is a tumor which spreads by bloodstream to the lungs. That's why very bad prognosis. What is the treatment of these patients? These patients should be treated in specialist pediatric oncology units who are well versed in management of these tumors, because this involves to give chemotherapy initially or radiotherapy to downstage the tumor, and ultimately by nephrectomy. So most of the unilateral tumors, when they present to us, they are not taken directly for surgery. They are treated by chemotherapy and then followed by nephrectomy. Partial nephrectomy may be possible with patients in bilateral disease, because God has given only two kidneys. You cannot remove both. Of course, now you can remove both and have a transplant. But in malignancies, it's not that easy. And after the advent of the chemotherapy, 80% of the patients survive at the end of 1 year. So this is regarding Wilms tumor, which is a renal tumor presenting in infancy from embryonic renal tissue, presents with a lump or hematuria, mainly a big lump, failure to thrive, fever, and other symptoms, general symptoms. When you find the tumor, you do an ultrasound examination, you find a solid mass, and you confirm it by doing intravenous pyelogram. Most know about the opposite kidney functioning, and CT scan, and come to a diagnosis. The treatment is only nephrectomy, preceded by chemotherapy, so that the average tumor is brought down and nephrectomy is done. So this, with the chemotherapy and nephrectomy, the prognosis is better than earlier. So that is treatment of Wilms tumor and a tumor presenting in childhood. Next we come to adults. In adults, kidney tumor is not very uncommon. It is called hypernephroma because initially it was thought to come from the adrenals. But it is an adenocarcinoma. Kidney has got glandular tissue, connective tissue, renal pelvis, and other areas. It contains transitional cells, and sometimes the transitional cell lining can change into squamous cell because of these changes. So it is an adenocarcinoma. Commonest renal cell carcinoma is adenocarcinoma. The cell of origin being proximal renal tubular cell. It is the most common neoplasm of the kidney. As I said, if there is a solid tumor from the mass from the kidney, think it as a renal cell carcinoma only, and then regard other things only as a rarity. So this arises from proximal renal cell, and usually you think that benign conditions can turn into malignancy. It is not like that. Though adenoma is there, it doesn't turn into malignancy in renal cell carcinoma. Once again, renal cell carcinoma involves either poles, upper pole or lower pole, usually upper pole. The cut surface, as you see here, is dull white, semi-transparent, with areas of hemorrhage and necrosis, right? This is a thick tumor. Often divided into lobules by fibrous septa. Some of these carcinomas can be cystic carcinomas, renal cystic carcinomas. So if there is a big cyst on ultrasound, you want to know whether it is malignancy or not, you have to depend on other investigations, because cystic carcinomas are also common. So we have discussed about the macroscopic appearance, wherein there is cut surface is yellowish or dull white, semi-transparent. This is one. This is a tumor with areas of septation and necrosis. Microscopically, this contains cubic. As I said, it is a clear cell carcinoma, polyhedral or cubical clear cells, and deeply stained small rounded nuclei. This is why it is called clear cell carcinoma. There is an abundant cytoplasm containing lipids, cholesterol, and glycogen. That's why the cytoplasm looks very clear cell carcinoma. Stroma is scanty but rich in blood vessels. So this is how a renal cell carcinoma looks like. Clear cell carcinoma, clear cytoplasm and dense nucleus. This is all renal cell carcinoma. Tumor, you have to know about the spread. Whenever you diagnose a tumor, you have to know, establish the nature of the tumor and establish the spread of the disease also by investigation. That's the aim of your investigation. The tumor is prone to grow into the renal vein. Right-sided tumor easily grows into the renal vein because of the short renal vein. And this renal vein growth can involve the inferior vena cava and go into the right atrium as well, complicating the management issues. Usually, if they goes into lungs, they produce secondary deposits in the lung called cannonball deposits. And metastasis to bone is also common. Sometimes patients can present with complications other than the original disease. So metastasis to bone is one such thing. Then highly vascular metastasis may pulsate also on examination. And metastasis via lymphatics to the para-aortic lymph nodes is common in renal cell carcinoma. Here you see there are lung secondaries in renal cell carcinoma. These are all cannonball secondaries due to compression. Growth compresses the lung tissue, assumes a cannonball appearance. So, to know the extent of the disease, you have to classify the disease. This is TNM classification is followed for all malignancies nowadays. So T is regarding the primary tumor as such. These renal cell carcinomas are big tumors. So these are classification, whereas TX means primary tumor cannot be assessed. Only secondaries are seen, primary tumor cannot be there. T0, no evidence of primary tumor in the specimen sent. Those are for histological purposes. T1 tumor is 7 centimeters or less in the greatest dimension, but it is limited to the kidney, within the kidney itself. Once again, this is classified into 1A, wherein tumor is less than 4 centimeters in greatest diameter and limited to kidney. 1B, whereas it is from 4 to 7 centimeters, but still limited to kidney. So T1 tumors are limited to kidney only, but varies in the size. T2 is tumor more than 7 centimeters in greatest diameter, but still limited to kidney. Once again, subclassified into 2A, more than 7 centimeters, first equal to or less than 10 centimeters in greatest dimension, limited to kidney. 2B, more than 10 centimeters, but still limited to kidney. So T1, T2 tumors are limited to kidney. Whereas T3 tumor extends into major veins like renal vein or perinephric tissues, but not into the ipsilateral adrenal gland or beyond gyrandus aphasia. If you remember the anatomy of the kidney and suprarenal gland, you see that they are in separate facial compartments, not in the same facial compartment. So if it extends beyond the gyrandus aphasia, only there is a possibility of adrenal being involved. Once again, these are classified into 3A tumors, wherein the tumor invades the renal vein or its segmental branches, or perirenal fat, or renal sinus fat, but not beyond gyrandus fascia. As you know, kidney has 3 layers. One is capsule, second is gyrandus fascia, third is perirenal fat. T3B tumors, they grossly extend into inferior vena cava below the diaphragm. Subdiaphragmatic inferior vena cava extension. Tumor extends into subdiaphragmatic inferior vena cava. T3C tumors extend into vena cava above the diaphragm or into the wall of the vena cava. Usually, it is not infiltrating into the wall, but here it infiltrates is called 3C. Then T4 tumor invades beyond gyrandus fascia, including contiguous extension into ipsilateral adrenal gland. This is classification regarding tumors. Then N means lymph nodes. There are no lymph nodes, N0. There are metastasis in the renal lymph node is called N1. And NX if renal lymph nodes cannot be assessed. Metastasis M0, metastasis MX, distant metastasis cannot be assessed. M0, no metastasis. M1, distant metastasis. So this is classification of renal cell carcinoma, which also gives you the idea how to manage that. This is preponderantly a male tumor, wherein 2:1, male is to female, male. And then the presentation with, people say usually presents with a triad of symptoms: pain, hematuria, and a mass in the loin. but this typical classical presentation can occur only in 10%. Not all three may be present at the time of examination. But hematuria is usually the presenting symptom. Blood in the urine, microscopic or macroscopic. There can be a dragging discomfort in the loin, or you can feel a loin mass. And one important interesting thing is a rapidly developing varicocele, mostly on the left side, which appears, the patient says suddenly it has appeared. Then you'll have to think of renal cell malignancy because the left gonadal vein is obstructed where it joins the left renal vein because of tumor, rapid varicocele results. So it's an important clinical finding to check the examination. Apart from this presentation, there can be an atypical presentation of renal cell carcinoma. Patient may not have any symptoms referable to the renal cell carcinoma, but can have manifestations due to secondary deposits. They call attention to the disease. And it can present with persistent pyrexia, low-grade fever continuing for long period without any diagnosis. And constitutional symptoms only, like severe anemia, it can present with severe anemia or polycythemia. Polycythemia because of the erythropoietin secreted by tumor cells. These are part of paraneoplastic syndrome. Nephrotic syndrome and other paraneoplastic syndromes, where is it hypercalcemia, hyperadrenocortical hormones, all these things are produced by the kidney. So they are present with, that is called paraneoplastic syndrome. So what do you do? First you have done an ultrasound to know whether there is a mass and it is solid or cystic. Then the next line, previously we used to do only an intravenous urogram, wherein you find that this is the normal calyceal pattern on the right side, whereas here the calyx is displaced. See, these are all the mass, and this calyx, upper calyx, is displaced. This is all a tumor. This we used to do. An important thing is you should know about the function of the opposite kidney. You are contemplating and removal of this kidney. If this kidney is not functioning properly, then you will land in trouble. So IVP is done not only to diagnose, but also to assess the opposite kidney, functioning opposite kidney. CT with enhancement, contrast enhancement, gives extent of the lesion, hilar lymphadenopathy, renal vein involvement, and very rarely you can do a CT guided fine needle aspiration for cytology. Not usually practiced. All solid tumors are supposed to be due to malignancy, and you proceed as such. Confirmation is only for non-operable tumors when you are offering other modalities of treatment. You see here, this is a CT scan showing big bilateral renal cell carcinomas. As I said, renal cell carcinomas can be bilateral also. So what do? Any investigation should, one, confirm the diagnosis, two, should assess the feasibility of surgery and fitness of the patients for surgery. So renal ultrasound, MRI, CT, PET, all these gives you an idea as to the mass. Renal angiogram preoperatively is done only for embolization of the hypernephroma when there are a lot of blood vessels as diagnosed by the MRI and PET scans. You want to reduce the bleeding at the time of operation, you can give a preoperative embolization to reduce the vascularity of the kidney, wherein the nephrectomy will be easier. And inferior vena cavogram gives an extent to the cavern involvement by the tumor growing in from the renal vein. But nowadays, MRI is preferred to flush inferior cavogram radiological study. Chest radiography is a must to detect lung secondaries, which are common. And isotope bone scans to diagnose bone secondaries. So with all these things, you have an idea how the tumor is, whether it's confined or developed already metastasis. Then one mention about the paraneoplastic syndromes. The renal tissue produces certain other things which produce the symptomatology. You all know that erythropoietin is produced by kidney, and this hyper secretion of erythropoietin leads to increased RBC count. Then adrenocorticotropic hormones are also secreted in the malignancy, paranephrosis syndrome, Cushing's syndrome like status. Enteroglucan produces protein enteropathy and prolactin galactorrhea. Insulin produces hypoglycemia, and gonadotropins may produce gynecomastia, hirsutism, amenorrhea, and male pattern balding in a female. So these are all paraneoplastic syndromes due to substances secreted by the kidney. So these can be presenting symptoms. Rather than the primary, paraneoplastic syndrome can be presenting symptoms. So then you have to think about management of the tumors. And keep in mind that the tumors, other kidney should function normally to remove one kidney. And possibility of bilateral tumors is also there. Keep those things in mind. The tumor is confined to kidney. Radical nephrectomy with removal of perinephric fat, geratas fascia, and removal of regional lymph nodes is done. This is called radical nephrectomy. Adrenal will not be removed unless it is involved or it is an upper polar tumor. For a lower polar tumor, you don't need to remove the adrenal. Whereas if you are upper pole, because it is very close and just removed. How do you approach the renal cell tumor? In renal cell tumor surgery, important thing is to get the vasculature before doing the surgery. Because of the spillage of the tumor cells into the circulation and producing deposits, you want to have the control of the renal hilum at the beginning of the surgery. So how to expose the tumor? A loin incision with rib resection, or a transverse abdominal incision, or an oblique abdominal incision, depending on the size of the tumor. You cut open the various layers of the abdomen and go to the kidney. Sometimes thoracoabdominal approach and keeping the patient on cardiopulmonary bypass may be required if the tumor is only single, no metastasis, there is inferior vena cava growth extension, and also right atrial extension may be required to do a cardiopulmonary bypass and remove the thrombus and the tumor intact. As I said, vascular pedicle is ligated before the tumor. The kidney is mobilized to get at the tumor to prevent spillage of the tumors. Are there any non-surgical treatment? This is only for not routine students, for others who want to remember something, whether other treatments are available or not. This is not an undergraduate slide, it is a postgraduate slide. Non-surgical tumors treatments by radiofrequency ablation and cryoablation for small tumors wherein you can observe and follow the patient. And targeted therapies which are given after surgery to control the rest of the tumors. And immunotherapy is also given after surgery to treat. Chemotherapy and radiotherapy are not useful in renal cell carcinoma. Most of the kidney cancers are resistant to chemotherapy, and radiation therapy is not effective as primary tumors for kidney cancer. But they are useful for secondaries. Suppose with a bone secondary producing pain or spinal secondaries, if you give radiation, pain, and they respond to radiation, but not the primary tumor. So primary tumor, the treatment is only a radical nephrectomy, followed by immunotherapy. Nowadays, people are giving immunotherapy, not radiotherapy, not chemotherapy. So that's the treatment of renal cell carcinoma. If in case of bilateral tumor, this is only I would talk about radical nephrectomy. But nowadays, if a tumor is confined to one pole, you can conserve the rest of the kidney. So that's how partial nephrectomies are being done with laparoscope or with robotic surgery. This conservative kidney surgery is also done, provided patient is available for you for follow-up. More so in bilateral tumors, wherein you cannot remove both the kidneys. So conservatively by partial nephrectomy or others. Inoperable cases, you follow, giving them some plasma, immunotherapy, something like that. Some people may be well even after 3 years with the tumor. Statistics are given like this, but very difficult to find these things. These are studies only. But if a patient comes to you with renal cell carcinoma, you have very guarded prognosis. This macroscopic involvement of renal vein, there is very poor prognosis. tumor invasion beyond the capsule is very poor prognosis. It is confined to kidney, small tumor. You can remove the tumor in toto without any spillage. That is very good. Lymph node involvement also gives you poor prognosis. So that is about renal cell carcinoma, which is usually a polar tumor, may be confined to kidney or extend beyond the kidney, diagnosed by an ultrasound examination, intravenous pyelogram or contrast CT, MRI, to know the extent of the disease. And if it is it's a tumor confined to the kidney, no metastasis, you can do radical nephrectomy. People do now with a single metastasis, can do an nephrectomy or metastectomy also. You can remove the metastasis also by surgery. So that is about Wilms tumor. Now, as we said, this also has renal pelvis. So what is the type of histological type of tumor that arises from the renal pelvis? It is a transitional cell tumor. Transitional cell start from the bladder, ureter, and the renal pelvis. So whenever there is a bladder neoplasm or vice versa, you'll have to fetch the entire area transitional carcinoma for malignancy, transitional cells for malignancy. Please remember this whenever you are dealing with cancer of the kidney or a transitional carcinoma of the renal pelvis. You have to search for tumors elsewhere. These tend to invade the renal parenchyma, this papillary cell carcinoma in the pelvis, have a tendency to distant spread. There is a strong tendency for the tumors to be multifocal. That is the typical characteristic of a transitional cell carcinoma. Multiplicity, multifocal is a typical characteristic. Seeding down the lumen of the urinary tract may give rise to multiple urinary tumors or even associated with a bladder tumor. Upper tract tumors must be excluded in transitional carcinoma of the bladder and vice versa. As I said, by investigation, you have to rule out transitional tumors elsewhere. Clinical features, again, hematuria is the most presenting symptom. And urine cytology, as for bladder cancer, urinary cytology gives some indication about the malignancy, whether it is well differentiated or poorly differentiated. Cytology gives like this. And intravenous urography demonstrates the tumor. Nowadays, CT is being done. Retrograde pyelographic compensates if there is indistinction in the IVP, intravenous urogram. You cannot freely see the ureter as such, then you can do retrograde urogram. See, this is the papillary carcinoma of the renal kidney, wherein the tumor is in the renal pelvis. This intravenous pyelogram produces a filling defect in the renal pelvis. So what is the treatment? The treatment differs from renal cell carcinoma in that just not radical nephrectomy. You have to do a nephroureterectomy and also disconnect. You have a cup of bladder, remove the cup of bladder wherein the ureteric orifice is getting inserted. So all these things should be done as a treatment for renal pelvic tumors. Renal cell carcinomas, radical nephrectomy, whereas transitional tumors of the renal pelvis, you have to do a nephroureterectomy with a cup over the bladder. This is through separate incision given, or it can be done with the resectoscope also. Ureteric orifice resection can be done with the resectoscope. And the ureter is delivered by blood dissection from the abdominal wall. So the main idea is you have to remove the kidney along with the ureter and a cuff for the bladder wall. That is important in transitional cell tumors. Squamous cell tumors also can occur in the renal pelvis. There is a prolonged inflammation and changes occurring, leukoplakic changes occurring due to a long stones stacked on calculate present for a long period. But one distinctive feature is squamous cell carcinomas are radiosensitive. They respond to radio. Metastasis occurs in early stage and prognosis is uniformly poor in renal pelvic carcinomas, squamous cell carcinomas, which are rare tumors. Coming to the ureter, the transitional tumor of the ureter is only thing which is occurring. For rare, isolated tumor of the ureter is rare. It behaves like tumors of the renal pelvis because it is lined by same transitional cells. Treatment is nephroureterectomy About 1/2 of the patients with tumors of the upper tract will have tumors in the bladder, as I said earlier. So needs to be followed up very carefully. Followed up with cystoscopy and regular urography and ultrasound examination to detect recurrent tumors and recurrent bladder tumors. This Balkan nephropathy may be given as a short note to you. It's a rare thing. Transitional tumors of the upper urinary tract are common in certain areas of Balkans, that is former Yugoslavia. They also have a high incidence of a form of primary nephropathy also, in association with the consumption of grain products stored in damp environment. This etiological factor was found with the Balkan nephropathy. Tumors develop against background of Balkan nephropathy. There is a Balkan nephropathy. Oran added on this, tumors develop. These are treated by nephron sparing surgery in view of the impaired overall renal function. This tumors, partial nephrectomy or excision, wedge section can be done for these patients. Sometimes nephrectomy is also done for benign disease. Because we are talking about nephrectomy in kidney, renal cell carcinoma, we are mentioning a brief mention about nephrectomy for benign disease. But remember, this is era conservation of nephrons, not kidneys. So whenever possible, you conserve kidney. Only when it is inevitable, you remove the kidney. As invalidates, you have to do it. There is no go. Whereas for benign disease, you'll have to think twice before doing a nephrectomy. The kidney is atrophic or dysplastic, and the kidney alone, renal artery stenosis, is there and causes accelerated hypertension. Non-functioning kidneys from long-standing obstruction, long-standing neglected stone disease, and infection. These are all indications, some indications for nephrectomy. Tuberculosis kidney is another reason, chronic infection. We used to do a lot of things earlier. So simple nephrectomy, you do only simple nephrectomy. Not a radical nephrectomy, that means just remove the kidney and this capsule. Subcapsular nephrectomy, the capsule is densely adherent to kidney as a tuberculosis. You do a subcapsular nephrectomy. Within the capsule itself, you remove. We don't include the subcapsule in the nephrectomy. Of course, this can be done by laparoscopy also. So, where are we? I'm finding it difficult to do it again. Yes. Any questions about what we have done already? Any questions about the topic? If you don't have questions, I will ask you questions. It seems you did not follow what I talked in the previous cases because your performance with MCQs in urology was very poor. That's what I was told by the HOD surgery at Supragar. I don't know the reason. I've been sending the script earlier and the questions given are very simple questions based on what is taught and what is given in that. I don't know why you have failed so much in the examination. So, what is the differential diagnosis of the renal mass? We'll talk to that. Suppose there's a mass in the loin. You should tell me how you diagnose, what is the differential diagnosis? What are the other masses that can occur there in the site of the loin? So how do you diagnose a kidney tumor? If it's a very big mass coming out, then how to diagnose it? Only by investigation. If it's a kidney mass, tumor confined to the kidney, you have to, how do you recognize kidney mass? Which symptom causes your attention to investigate further for any of these things? Hematuria. Hematuria, should it be gross hematuria or microscopic hematuria itself? How do you differentiate if there is gross hematuria with clots and all, and simple painless total hematuria? These are the two distinctions. Which is suggestive of symptoms of renal cell carcinoma, and which is suggestive of a bladder tumor or something like that. You have microscopic hematuria and one side painless total hematuria, and then yes, you have said there's hematuria, but my question is brisk hematuria with clots on one side and painless total gross hematuria is on the other side. Which points out to renal cell carcinoma and which points out to bladder tumor? We have not discussed bladder tumor. I know that. Next class is on bladder tumors only. So you should know the symptoms. It will not produce, renal cell carcinoma will not produce such massive hematuria to be with clots and all usually. It's only microscopic hematuria, which sometimes we used to investigate only with ultrasound and IVP. We failed to diagnose a renal cell carcinoma at the earliest tumor. So any painless hematuria in a middle-aged man should be investigated by an ultrasound. And even if you fail to see any mass in the ultrasound, he may require a CT scan because small tumors may be missed by an ultrasound. So that's how you have to investigate microscopic hematuria in an adult, because it's usually due to malignant lesions. Of course, benign things are there, but you have to rule out a malignancy and other causes like other malignancies before you are happy. What's the treatment of renal cell carcinoma? Inoperable renal cell carcinoma that we have not discussed, is not. And also, spontaneous regression of renal cell carcinoma is described. You don't wait for a while, it may disappear. But I have not told all these things because they are rare things. All, of course, mentioned in books, spontaneous regression of renal cell carcinoma is one of the entities described, but not correctly documented. Suppose there is a malignancy, patient is very bad, he cannot be operated. That's where the other modalities of treatment come, but it's not there. And patients have a lot of metastasis, but still kidney tumor is removable. You remove the tumor to debulk so that there is some response, some relief to the patient because of the removal of a large mass. And with removal of the primary, secondaries also may show some sign of regression. That is palliative nephrectomy in a patient with metastasis and renal tumor. So all these things are not given probably. You have to check and remember these things. Treatment of malignancy without metastasis, radical nephrectomy. With single metastasis, nephrectomy and treatment of the metastasis by radiotherapy or surgery. Inoperable cancer with palliative nephrectomy because of these things. The regression of the secondaries which is possible. And other modalities of treatment. And follow-up treatment of renal cell carcinoma with immunotherapy, surgery and immunotherapy. No radiation or no chemotherapy. That's how you have to remember. Right? Arterial embolization therapy, again, this is possible for hematuria, right? If there is hematuria in our person, then you can do embolization. As I said, embolization is done even before nephrectomy to reduce the vascularity of the kidney so that nephrectomy can be done easily without much bleeding. That's why embolization works both. One for making a big tumor into a smaller tumor and easy operability, Two, in hematuria with inoperable tumor, you can embolize and control the bleeding. As I said, in the angiomyolipoma also, there is bleeding. You have control by embolization. So remember, this can be a case, if it is there, it will be kept for the examination. So you'll have to know how to examine for a renal mass. What are the features of a renal mass? Then usually a palpable kidney is either hydronephrosis or renal cell carcinoma. Renal cell carcinoma is not is a firm mass. What could be the target therapy in end stage renal carcinoma? No, these are all not useful. These are all only for palliation. As I said, I've shown you some targeted therapy to prevent angiogenesis, something like that, which are not for you, not for undergraduates. Don't try to remember that. Otherwise, you remember what is the treatment, right? They're all targeted therapy, radio frequency ablation, and all these things for just mention only, not for you. If you try to remember those things, you forget what is the treatment of renal cell carcinoma. You'll be thinking about these things only, right? There's only to make you think about those things, that's all. They're not, you need not write in the examination also. It is given, you need not write in the examination also. For you, as far as you are concerned, either a radical nephrectomy or if feasible for bilateral tumors, partial nephrectomy. That's all you have to remember. Followed by immunotherapy, as no chemotherapy, no radiotherapy is there for the renal cell carcinoma. Right. Thank you. Next class will be on bladder cell carcinoma. Sorry, I could not send it earlier. I did not send the matter early, but I will do it next time. All these things, hematuria is an important essay question for you. Remember all these things. There can be a medical hematuria or a surgical hematuria. I would like to give a brief note about this in the classes to come because I have been given some short notes questions which are likely to come, like hypospadias, stricture urethra, tumor markers, something like that. I'll give you the notes as well as try to cover it in the urology lectures. Thank you very much. Thank you.